So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon. So my name is Steve Marks. I'm the city manager for Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken is a 1 square mile community with about 50,000 residents, and we were hit hard from Superstorm Sandy. We're basically right at the eye of the storm. That's a Weather Channel or NOAA image from Superstorm Sandy. So for those of you who may not know, Hoboken is the birthplace of baseball. It's the birthplace of Frank Sinatra. For those of you who may like or may not like Cake Boss, it's where Carlos Bakery has its famous bakery. It's also where On the Waterfront was shot with Marlon Brando back in the 1950s. So we have a population of 52,000. We're 1.2 square miles. About 80% of our city is within FEMA's special flood hazard area. We had at least $100 million worth of damage as recorded by FEMA during Superstorm Sandy. That's for private businesses and homeowners, and we had about $25 million worth of damage as FEMA measured from the Public Assistance Program. We had about 1,800 ground level households and businesses that were flooded, and residents lost about 2,000 cars during Superstorm Sandy. So what I've done is I've broken my presentation up into 2 segments. First, there's about 15 observations or findings, and then we came up with a 9-point resiliency plan to make the city stronger for future disaster events. So the first is if you're looking at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or the President's Task Force on Climate Change, the frequency and severity of storm events is going to increase as we approach 2100. We're a tidal community. We're right across the Hudson River from New York City in the Empire State Building, and this is what our waterfront looked like. Where it says skate park, there's actually a park that's missing under the water there. The park reappeared a day later, but that's basically what our waterfront looked like. So a professor from Stevens Institute of Technology estimated that the storm surge from Superstorm Sandy was about 13 to 14 feet on the Battery in New York City, which is about a mile south of Hoboken. It breached Hoboken's shoreline, and his estimate is that about 500 million gallons of water from the Hudson River breached Hoboken's shoreline. Hoboken is shaped like a bowl with our higher elevations along the waterfront and along the Palisades Ridge to our west. And it settled into Hoboken and stayed for about a week. We have 3 electrical substations. Those 3 electrical substations were 1940s, 1950s era electrical substations, resting on 4-inch or 6-inch concrete platforms. All 3 electrical substations were knocked out. Probably 90 to 95% of the city lost power, and some parts of the city didn't see power come back for about a month. So these are what our electrical substations look like. I mean, there's probably, even when the water receded, there's still about a foot or 2 of water where the electrical substations were. The bottom right-hand picture is our Main Street, Washington Street, which is a main commercial thoroughfare, totally dark. And we also had a curfew immediately after Superstorm Sandy. This is what our evacuation routes look like. So we are home. Hoboken is a major transit hub for New Jersey and the Northeast. So the bottom right-hand image is, you may remember seeing it on national news. PATH is basically our subway, our connection, our lifeline to New York City. That's what the PATH subway looked like. It took about 3 months for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey that operates the PATH to bring the PATH online. We are a bedroom community to New York City, and about 52% of our residents actually commute to New York for jobs. So it is the PATH, it is an economic lifeline. This is what our New Jersey Transit's other rolling stock looked like, heavy rail and buses immediately after Superstorm Sandy. This is what our first responders had to deal with. We didn't have any high water vehicles. Basically, there wasn't enough shelter space to evacuate people, seniors, elderly, disabled, those in need, who had medical issues during the event, who couldn't evacuate. Our fire department had to basically forced to remove people on Zodiac rafts or in the buckets of vehicles because we didn't have anything that was, even our fire trucks. I mean, our fire trucks could have gone through 5 feet of water, but when you have salt water, because it was the Hudson River, which is brackish, coming into town, the salt water would have destroyed the engine. So unless it was a true emergency, thank God we didn't have any fires during Superstorm Sandy or immediately afterwards, and there was no loss of life. We're extremely fortunate. So it's just basically people moving about immediately after Superstorm Sandy. There's not enough there's not enough shelter space. We basically ask people to shelter in space. If you are in one of the 1,800 businesses or ground level condos, you pretty much knew. We recommended that you take shelter with either friends and neighbors in your building. That we're a vertical city, so find shelter, take shelter with friends and neighbors upstairs, or friends and neighbors in another part of town where you were going to be dry during the event, and there's not enough shelter space. Small businesses, this is what the top left-hand corner is, people, proactive businesses we're trying to do to prevent flooding, and bottom right-hand corner that's about a block away from City Hall, what small businesses look like after the event. Edible arrangements. This is typical of Hoboken, where you have ground level businesses. I wouldn't want to eat there for a while. And the insanity of the poorhouse. I mean, the water's infiltrating their building and they're just pumping it back out to the street. So our ShopRite, with 3 supermarkets in town, our ShopRite sustained over $1 million worth of damages. Didn't reopen. Superstorm Sandy hit on October 29th, 2012. They didn't reopen until February of 2013. So, food and fuel, the disruption. There were major economic disruptions during Superstorm Sandy, getting enough food. Thank God the National Guard came in, delivered 25,000 MREs. We also had a lot of donations from companies across the country that delivered food and water to residents. Communications, guess what? When you have no electricity from substations, your cell towers that are hooked up, hardwired to the grid go down. If you lose power, your cell phone may be good for 24 hours, but what happens when you have no power and your cell phone's out? A lot of people, we're a generally younger city, a younger demographic, and a lot of people have cell phones, they don't have copper wire service. The salt water got basically intruded into the copper telephone system, and most of the city's copper telephone lines went out. They went black. So those who were, the 5% of residents who were fortunate to have power, a lot of them put out extension cords for friends and neighbors to power up. This is what the city looked like after the storm. We removed about 8,000. It took a month for people to put all of their inundated debris out to the curb. So, and a lot of it was mixed with home heating oil, sanitary sewer backed up, and we removed about 8,000 tons of debris. And it requires a leadership from the top. So what are we doing? We have a 9-point resiliency plan. We worked with the U.S. Department of Energy, Sandia National Laboratory. They analyzed our electrical grid, and they made recommendations to power up critical community facilities. We looked at an upper bound series of about 55 sites and a lower bound series of about 25 sites, including our hospital, our sewage treatment plant, supermarkets, senior citizen centers, and senior buildings, as well as police headquarters, fire headquarters, etc. They basically did the analysis and made recommendations. Coastline protection. So this is an image from Scheveningen, Holland. We actually took a good page from Holland. This is what Holland, 2/3 of Holland is actually below sea level. And this is what a good deal of Holland's coast actually looks like. Believe it or not, that's an armored levee. And armored levees don't have to look like a brick wall. We're trying to incorporate our future armored levees into our parks, into our open space. So they're basically attractive amenities for residents and businesses. This is the north part of town. We have a plan for a future park space. We have a waterfront walkway on the Hudson River, and we have to rethink what it's going to look like for the foreseeable future. We're putting in additional flood pumps. We put in, so the city in the North Hudson, the city belongs to a 4 municipal sewage authority, North Hudson Sewage Authority. North Hudson Sewage Authority put in our first flood pump in 2011 after Hurricane Irene, which cost about $17 million, about $9 million of which came from our federal stimulus funds. We're going ahead with the second pump station because the first pump station is inadequate. And that's going to cost about $12 million, which is going to be through municipal bonds. When we first introduced the bond ordinance for the $12 million for the City Council, we had 9 votes in favor of it, and that was earlier this year. Last week, when we put the bond ordinance for actual bonding, the first was for a low-interest loan from the state revolving loan fund for clean water. When we put it before the City Council, and they saw the $12 million price tag, you needed 6 votes to have it passed. 3 people who were in support of the project previously voted against it. So 2 years, even though it's been 2 years since Superstorm Sandy, in that 2 years, we've lost. I mean, there's storm fatigue, and there's amnesia, and people forget what happened just 2 years prior. So we've created a green infrastructure strategic plan, and we're 80%, besides being 80% in the flood hazard area, we're 80% impervious. So we're actually looking to acquire additional parks and open space and create flood storage in those spaces. This is a picture of Rotterdam, which also has a combined source system. Rotterdam is very similar to Hoboken. Rotterdam has water bodies, and during storm events, the walkways, the public walkways, actually double as spillways. This is another park in Rotterdam. We're emulating what the Dutch are doing, especially in Rotterdam. And the parks and the playgrounds double for flood storage and stormwater storage. We've analyzed our sewer sheds, basically. And there's a site, it's the green site, that's a map of Hoboken. The green site is a 6.5-acre site that the city is looking to acquire. And we're looking to make it into a park at the surface. We're also looking, there's a dearth of parking in Hoboken. And so we're looking to put in a below-grade parking garage. And below the parking garage, we're actually looking to put in stormwater chambers, which would handle between 5 and 10 million gallons of stormwater during storm events. And because we have a combined source system, the idea is to store the stormwater during the storm events, during the rain events, so it's not going in. You don't have combined source sewage either going out to the Hudson River or backing up into people's basements. So that 5 to 10 million gallon capacity will help alleviate flooding and stormwater runoff in the city. We're creating another park. This is a 1 acre park. We're putting stormwater chambers under that 1 acre park that will handle about 200,000 gallons of stormwater. It's a green infrastructure park. We're also looking to put in resilient communication systems and Wi-Fi throughout the city. We're flood-proofing our substations and our critical community facilities that are in the flood hazard area. We're updating our zoning and building. We can't update the building code because the state of New Jersey controls that, but we are updating our zoning. And this is basically the mode of development in Hoboken. It's 6, 8, 10-story buildings, but the ground levels, they're going to have elevated mechanicals and electricals, so nothing's below the base flood elevation. And what we could put in, besides having retail on the ground floor, is parking and storage. And the mayor went around on a public information campaign to alert residents to be aware of storm season. September is hurricane month or preparedness month, so she was recommending all residents be prepared. And we created a community emergency response team. During Barney Superstorm Sandy, we actually had 5,000 volunteers who delivered food and water to stranded seniors as well as medicine. And that's basically it.